Hello there. Thank you so much for taking the time to review this informational webinar put on by the Texas Education Agency regarding the vetted Texas Tutor Core program. We're excited to have you here today to learn more about the vetted Texas Tutor Core Approved Providers Year 2 in this recorded information session. Please know that upon the conclusion of this pre-recorded video, we will ensure that all resources are available to organizations interested in submitting an application. You may also navigate to our website at tea.texas.gov at any time to learn more about the supports provided by the agency to accelerate student learning in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. So welcome again. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch and view this recorded informational session. A fun fact, we have over 50 approved provider partners now providing thousands of tutors to LEAs across the state to assist with accelerating student learning. We're looking forward to year 2 of this work and continuing to support learning acceleration. Today's purpose and outcomes. The purpose of today's recorded webinar is to provide current and future approved providers with the information necessary to complete either an updated application for continuation on the vetted Texas Tutor Core site or submit a new first-time application for consideration of inclusion on the vetted Texas Tutor Core site. It's important to make note that submission of an application does not guarantee final approval on the VTTC list. We do have some intended outcomes. We're going to start to provide an overview of the vetted Texas Tutor Core. We will introduce year 2, the application and corresponding review process. We'll provide an overview of the year 2 application and review that timeline for launch. We'll introduce the newly designed application template, and we'll provide resources to organizations as they navigate the year 2 application. It's important to make note that at this time we are currently finalizing our Approved Providers Handbook and should have that ready for publication the week of June 6, 2022. So just an overview of the program. A reminder that the purpose of the program is to establish a list of vetted tutor providers for use by school districts as well as open enrollment charters that need high impact tutoring supports, starting in school year 21-22, continuing into school year 22-23, as well as 23-24, with the opportunity for expansion contingent upon need. The Texas Education Agency has identified significant challenges for local education agencies, also known as LEAs, in recruiting and training sufficient tutors for high-dosage tutoring to meet unfinished learning needs and seeks to provide districts and charters with a vetted list of tutor providers. Tutor providers who are approved through this program application will provide evidence of aligned experience, expertise, capacity, and scale, budget, and results associated with one or more categories in this application. It's important to note that this application process does not represent a procurement action by TEA, and again, approval does not guarantee tutor providers will be awarded contracts from LEAs, also known as school districts. And just a firm reminder, this is not an RFP or an RFQ process. In looking at the background for this proposal, early data indicates that school closures and disruptions from school year 2019 and 2020, as well as school year 2020 and 2021, are likely to result in unfinished learning for many students statewide, making multi-year recovery and acceleration supports even more crucial. LEAs are considering how to best facilitate learning acceleration and also meet new legislative requirements under House Bill 4545 that requires accelerated instruction for any student that did not successfully pass one or more state assessments, in addition to school districts utilizing a high-impact tutoring program either as part of a grant or to increase overall student outcomes. There is robust evidence that high-impact tutoring is one of the most effective ways to increase learning gains for all students. Just a quick overview of some of the tutoring qualities and characteristics. High-impact tutoring can lead to substantial learning gains for students by supplementing students' classroom experiences, provided that the program is implemented with fidelity and adheres to the following characteristics. First, it's important that a well-trained and consistent tutor builds a strong relationship with students. This tutor can be a current or retired certified teacher, a substitute teacher, a paraprofessional, a teacher candidate, also known as a pre-service educator, a college student, or even a community volunteer. One of these elements that helps districts meet House Bill 4545 requirements is that tutors should be under the training and oversight of the school district employing them. An additional component would be high-quality instructional material aligned to standards in core classwork, what are known as the TEKS, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. It's important to keep in mind that one-to-one or small group tutoring for individualized support is considered to be the most effective. House Bill 4545 requires a tutoring ratio of 3-to-1 unless parents have waived group size requirements. It's important to consider that tutoring should be embedded into the school day or immediately before or after the school day or during an LEA summer program to maximize student success, access, as well as attendance. And finally, it's important that tutoring takes a data-driven approach, utilizing aligned formative assessments with tutors building sessions around the student's strengths and needs and adjusting their approach based upon the data over time. In looking at the mission of the vetted Texas Tutor Corps, as well as the benefits for your organization in being a member on this list, it's twofold. The vetted Texas Tutor Corps seeks to increase the number of vetted and trained tutors to meet the increased demand and need for tutoring across the state of Texas, both in the physical classroom setting as well as the virtual classroom setting. It's important that the vetted Texas Tutor Corps creates an approved provider list serving as a central clearinghouse to point LEAs to vetted tutors and organizations who are ready and available to contract with LEAs. And finally, partnering with our Education Service Centers, also known as ESCs, to facilitate LEA connections with vetted tutor providers and provide high quality and consistent training of tutor providers. In looking at the benefits that your organization stands to gain in being a member of this group, your organization will be included on the VTTC approved provider list that's shared with LEAs statewide. ESC and TEA communication of your organization's status as an approved provider, and finally, having the opportunity to receive high-impact tutoring training from a TEA partner or ESC service center to build tutor capacity. In looking at the Year 2 launch and overview, we'll go over a bit of the information regarding what will be new in Year 2. So, we're going to start first and foremost with a transition from an individually created application submission to a standardized template application. In Year 1, organizations interested in partnering with the vetted Texas Tutor Corps were sent a PDF packet in which they had to compose and create their own response to this packet, resulting in multiple variations of submitted responses from organizations across the state. Our new standardized template application will ensure that folks work on and complete exactly what is needed to ensure a thorough review for consideration on the vetted Texas Tutor Corps list. Second, we have the development and release of an approved provider's handbook to assist applicants with their application and resource submission. We're slated to have this document finalized and published the week of June 6th. However, knowing that multiple organizations are eager and excited to get the work launched, we do have a temporary supplemental handbook aid to assist organizations in completing their application. In looking at our new application, you'll see that sections are included will allow for organizations to update and or submit their information in a fillable PDF type document that meets agency accessibility requirements for public posting for LEAs to review. That way, once you are submitted on our list, LEAs will have the most up-to-date and accurate information about your organization so that they may review and verify it as they work to make decisions with organizations that would best meet their student learning needs. And finally, an area of efficiency we've improved on is the elimination of post-notification steps, such as completing the informational one-pager and commitment form after already receiving approval notice. There will now only be one document that your organization needs to send to us. In looking at some general submission information, the provision of this service is intended to span school years 21 through 22, 22 to 23, and 23 to 24, again with the possibility of continuation determined by TEA as well as LEA needs. This is currently and will continue to be a rolling application process. We'll continue to accept applications for the 22-23 school year until January 2023. It's important to note that that specific deadline is January 31st, 2023. Applications submitted for school year 22 to 23 are for approval for the 22 to 23 school year only. For the receipt of applications to be considered, your organization must send your application to the following email address: texastutoring@tea.texas.gov. That is the official channel of communication for all things related to the vetted Texas Tutor Corps. Additional correspondence and information will also come from this email. Also, in looking at school year 23-24, which will be here before we know it, information and applications for that school year will be available in the spring and summer of 2023. Looking at our timeline for year 2, again, June 6th will be our official week for releasing resources as well as beginning to accept applications. Upon submission of an application, TEA will send an application acknowledgement and the review process will begin. Within 10 business days of receiving your application acknowledgement, TEA reviews the applications and sends you a status update. That status update will either communicate that you have been approved or denied for inclusion on the VTTC list. Within 5 business days of communicating your organization's status update, the Texas Education Agency will work with our teams internally to update the VTTC site page within 5 business days if your application is approved, so that our site page reflects your application and your organization's current status. And finally, again, our application window for this school year will close January 31st, 2023. Some of those resources available that I had mentioned will be published the week of June 6th, and we currently have supplemental aids to support organizations with completing their application in the interim. In looking at our first resource, we have our Approved Providers Handbook, which was created after multiple rounds of feedback and resource development to serve as a support and application preview for any organizations applying or interested in applying. This resource was vetted and created by the TEA team. It contains information regarding the essential areas that applicants must address in their application narratives, and it will be a public-facing document available on our website. In looking at the standardized application form, again, this is that fillable PDF document for organizations to complete and submit to the Texas Education Agency. It works to reduce post-notification action steps. It is in alignment with agency accessibility requirements for documents, as well as consistency across agency communications. And additionally, it will be public-facing for LEAs to review and utilize when making decisions regarding tutoring providers. Finally, if you have any questions after this informational webinar, or have anything else to add or request, please direct all questions in writing to our email inbox, texastutoring@tea.texas.gov. Please also email us if you're requesting an application and we will send it to you. Again, our website will be updated the week of June 6th to reflect our most current level of resource availability. It's also important to note that the Texas Education Agency places tutoring providers on the vetted Texas Tutor Core list based on a variety of criteria related to their ability to provide high-quality tutoring services to students in Texas. TEA has not entered into contracts with these providers in connection with their placement on the list. Additionally, TEA does not have the authority to verify whether the tutoring providers are eligible to serve as contractors to an LEA. It is the responsibility of the contracting LEA to ensure that any tutoring provider selected on this list complies with any relevant statutes or rules applicable to entities that provide services to LEAs, including Chapter 22 of the Texas Education Code and any relevant data handling or information security requirements. Thank you so much for spending these last few minutes with us to review this recorded informational session regarding Year 2 of the Vetted Texas Tutor Core Program. We look forward to collaborating with you together to support student learning needs.